Returning now to our top story, and Ben Aris is the editor-in-chief of BNE IntelliNews. He joins us now from Peterborough in the UK. Really good to have you back with us, Ben. Firstly, can I ask you about these reports that Putin apparently told Trump that he would be willing to freeze the front lines in exchange for a withdrawal of Ukrainian troops from Donetsk and Luhansk?
Yes, exactly. I mean, this has come out as the details trickle out after the summit. What's being reported is that Putin was demanding, and he said from the beginning that he wants to hang on to some territory, but we have some details now. And he wants to have control of the whole of the Donbas. And at the same time, he was prepared to freeze the fighting, the front line in the two other regions of Kherson and Zaporizhzhia without taking full control. Now, that's an issue because the Russian forces have taken control of Lugansk, which is the northern of the two regions in Donbas, in July. They have full control of that. But they don't have full control of Donbas, which is Donetsk, which is the southern of the two regions. And that's an issue because the Ukrainians have invested very heavily into some very sophisticated defenses around their key fortress cities there. And Zelenskyy has said from the beginning that he is adamantly opposed to giving up any territory whatsoever, but militarily to give up control of the parts of Donetsk, which Ukraine still control, will put them at a huge disadvantage. It will basically give up their defenses. And Zelensky's arguing then the whole of the Donbass would become a launch pad for the Russian forces to launch a second attack at their leisure and bypass these extensive defenses. And so he's come out already and said, like, he refuses. This is the deal that Trump and Putin agreed, that Trump's put on the table. And before the meeting that's due on Monday between Zelenskyy and Trump, he's already rejected it.
Well, that's right, because we know that European leaders are due to convene on Sunday ahead of Zelensky's meeting with Trump on Monday. Surely they'll be looking at coming up with some counterpoints to this very controversial proposal.
Indeed. I mean, the second thing that came out today was that Trump has said that he wants to walk back from the ceasefire proposal, which actually was suggested by the Americans in February, a 30-day unconditional ceasefire. And he's suggesting that we should do a peace deal, a more permanent long form. Because the trouble with ceasefires is they get broken, but a peace deal, a larger peace deal, would put a long-term end to the war and lay the ground for, I don't know, the relationships between Russia, Ukraine, Europe and America going forward. But again, Zelensky's come out and he basically hasn't changed his line, and he's been backed by European allies, the coalition of the willing that's going to meet on video call tomorrow, and many of them will be in Washington on Monday. And that has been for an immediate ceasefire. And Ukraine's position has been before any peace negotiations can start, there needs to be a halt to the hostilities on the ground. And Putin's taken the line where he's refused that. He wants to have these negotiations over territory, what have you, while the fighting's still going on. And that's simply because the Russians are making progress. There's intense fighting going on in and around the Donbass, and the Russians have the advantage on the field. And Putin doesn't want to give up that military momentum because if the peace talks fail, then they will continue to push ahead and can increase the pressure on Kiev. Whereas Zelenskyy is like, if you're sincere about peace talks, then stop the fighting and then we'll work on a peace deal or ceasefire deal together.
Yes, of course, before the Alaska summit, this idea of a 30-day ceasefire was official US policy. It seems that Vladimir Putin has managed to talk Trump out of it.
Trump has been very supportive. This deal that's been suggested now or discussed in Alaska is very similar to the final offer, so-called final offer peace deal that Trump suggested in April and was rejected at a London conference on the same grounds. Again, then Zelenskyy said we're not giving up any territory. And again, then he said we have to have a ceasefire before we can do any talks. And Trump has basically given in to a lot of Putin's demands. I think this time around, Putin's actually made some more concessions. The freezing of the front line in the southern two regions is new. Also, Zelensky's injected this idea of Russia offering security guarantees to Ukraine, promising not to attack it. And Putin said he's willing to do that and sign a piece of paper saying that, if there's a ceasefire, then there won't be a second attack, which is new. So a little bit of progress has been made, but all said and done, the two sides are still very far apart.
Yes, a lot to discuss for the European leaders on Sunday. Ben Aris, thank you as always.
My pleasure.